And by the way, am I allowed one brief tangent? Because it's not a tangent. Someone's asking, can a lid be put back on? The first step in exposing the matrix is revealing the matrix. The first rule of the real goals of civil society is do not talk about the real goals of civil society. The second rule of the real motives of civil society is do not talk about the real motives of civil society. Let me just do a brief tangent here. Let me explain where they learned these literal mind control techniques. Literally. And I'm going to say this, and if you really want to see the Matrix, go look this up and you'll see it for yourself. You've heard of the People's Temple in Jonestown. You remember the hundreds of people who literally drank the Kool-Aid and committed suicide in Jonestown, right? Remember that? You've heard of that. And everyone goes, well, that's crazy. Who would do that? Jim Jones, the guy behind Jonestown, was a major political player in San Francisco, was close to Diane Feinstein, was close to Willie Brown. Don't take my word for it, go look it up. I spent a few weeks at the Oakland Public Library researching. I went through the newspaper pages day after day when Jonestown was revealed. About 4 days in, when they realized all the people who were getting killed there, by the way, the People's Temple, Jim Jones, the People's Temple, you notice that? The People's Temple. It's because he was a communist. But here's the thing, Jim Jones is a perfect example. I knew people who knew him, who'd met him. Was Jim Jones a leftist? Stop looking at it that way. Stop looking at it left and right. He was a combination of a leftist and a holy roller. Look at him. The big sunglasses and the way he presents himself. He learned holy roller Southern rip-off techniques and combined it with a leftist ideology, and it ended up with hundreds of people, including children. Go look at the bodies at Jonestown. Now, he was tightly connected to the political establishment. In fact, Jim Jones was a housing supervisor. Right? The groups that were radical groups in the 60s learned that being arrested was not fun, and that being underground was not fun, and that there's more money in going into civil society. So that's what they did. If you look at the members of the Weather Underground, about half of them went into academia. Don't forget, academia is part of civil society. A lot of them went into community organizing. These were people who were terrorists, criminals, and thugs. Right? And what they learned is the Black Panthers, the same thing. And by the way, this all happened in the 60s. And I wrote a big story about this at Breitbart. When you start to look at what was happening on the West Coast, California, late 60s, early 70s, New York to some extent too, but a lot of it was West Coast. Two movements were happening at the time. The leftist underground political movement, that included the Weather, that included the Panthers, you dig? And the rise of client cults, and EST, and the Forum, and all of these other movements. And they were connected. The people knew each other. Cesar Chavez, hero of labor movement, right? I did a big story on it at Breitbart, that he was connected to a cult leader, and they would use cult techniques, and so would the Weather Underground. This is another film I'm working on. But I just want you to understand what was happening here. These two movements coincided, and the people worked with and knew each other, because they understand how to get you into the van. You see what I'm saying? And by the way, where this all connects? Manson, the Manson family. Helter Skelter was about trying to kick off a leftist revolution. That's what it was about. It was about trying to kick off a race war. That's what it was about. This is, again, it's not conjecture. That's what it was about. Now, the really short version of that is one of the mind control techniques that you use is you take people, go read it. If you want to read a great book that predates this stuff, it's Eric Hoffer's The True Believer. So what you do is you look for disaffected, lost soul type people, right? Which the West Coast was full of at the time. It was, Manson was a failed songwriter. Did you know that? And he was supposed to be pretty good. Neil Young said in interviews he was good. Manson was a failed songwriter. Okay? You got these people who were disaffected people. And then you create a quote-unquote family. The Manson family. The Jim Jones, right? You create this big collective thing. Then you give them jobs so that their entire life and livelihood revolves around you. You tell them where they can live. You tell them how they can eat. You tell them who they can fuck. Right? These groups all did this. The Black Panthers, women in the Black Panthers weren't allowed to sleep with men outside the Black Panthers. In the Weather Underground, everybody was required to sleep with everybody. If you were a couple, they broke you up. If you were in the Weather Underground and you came in and you had a girlfriend, they broke you up. And then you fucked everybody, men or women. These are proven mind control techniques, and there's no conjecture about this. What I'm telling you is the truth. This is the way these groups worked. Okay? And what happened was these groups went pro. They went into academia, they went into community organizing, they went into non-government organizations, they went into this, they bought suits, they took the Alinsky model. This is what Hillary Clinton did. Hillary Clinton, when she was at Yale Law School, helped organize for the Black Panthers. When she went to Berkeley, she worked for Truhaft Bernstein, the premier communist law firm in the Bay Area. But she was corresponding with Saul Alinsky, who when she was at Wellesley, she'd written her essay on. Her correspondence has come out. I've been by the apartment she lived in Berkeley, where she talked to Alinsky. Let that sink in. It is a cliche now, but I'm just going to say it anyway. That's why I'm asking you. Retweet this puppy. Let people... This is absolute fact. Within about 3 years, Hillary Clinton had gone from radical Yale, interning for a communist law firm in Berkeley, to the first lady of Arkansas with a southern accent. Go look it up. Go listen to Hillary Clinton when she was in Arkansas. She grew up in Chicago. She gets down to Arkansas. Hey, y'all. We're just down here for some peace and justice. Now, and she changed her politics. Because they understood, she and Bill Clinton understood that to get elected and stay in power in Arkansas, you couldn't be anti-death penalty. Does that make sense? You needed to be pro-death penalty. So she adopted that position. Very quickly. She turned around very, very quickly. It's fully documented. There's no conjecture. I don't do conjecture as a journalist because the truth is too fascinating. So what I'm showing you is the hidden history behind the Matrix here. That once you start to dig into it, like I've done for the past few years. So I have this tremendous amount of material, and now it's a matter of organizing it. That's all I'm trying to do right now, and that's why, again, your donations make a big difference. Because we need to do two things. We need to organize the information, present it in a clear way. This is unassailable stuff. You can't argue with any of this, and it's shocking to people. And the reason they need to know that this is murder, the reason they need to see the bodies at Jonestown, is the people marching in the streets have no idea what agenda they're actually promoting. They have no idea what's behind the peace and justice movement. They have no idea. None. None. So, I'm carrying on Andrew Breitbart's work. That's what I'm trying to do. That's his legacy. I hoped to be able to do it at Breitbart, but I can't. Because they're not doing it anymore. They're not interested in it. And so now I realize we're in a dire situation. For a lot of people who thought, well, we have Breitbart. No, you don't. You don't have them. You don't. And then we have a lot of distraction people who want to distract you with stories that are conjecture. And again, I don't do that. So, there you go. Take it for what it's worth. Okay, I'm going to roll.